diagnosing the engine build still. Quick recap, put the engine in, did the 5 minute drive with Jake. Everything seemed to be pretty good. Came back, we had a small coolant leak. So it looked like it was coming from the water pump. Pulled out the water pump, put a new gasket in, put some dry bond around the gasket per Jake's recommendation, reinstalled it, filled it up with coolant, no leaks. So I thought that was it. We took it on a 30-minute spirited drive, which is the next break-in step. Very spirited. That was a lot of fun. Car feels great. Came back, stopped for gas halfway through, checked, and found no leak at the gas station. Was really excited. Came home, parked it, still no leak. Went in for lunch. Came back a couple hours later after the car cooled off, and this is what we have. Same thing as before, same spot. So I was afeared that it was going to be this gasket that is behind the front console, and I was going to have to do that. Was not looking. So Jake's going to be joining us to help me troubleshoot in about 5 minutes. He just texted me. He got held up for a second, but he'll be here soon. So I got this on the lift and I lifted it up and I realized that it actually seems to be leaking from higher than that, which made me super excited because I don't want to have to pull off this thing, the front console with this still on the car. So it looks like it's actually leaking from here. Let me try to get some light. But Jake wanted to go live and talk about where we're at now. Oh yeah, I can see. I don't know if you guys can see a good little drip coming right out of this little hose. So I bought a new one of these because the other end that's connected to the AOS type looking thing was cracked. So it comes with this rubber piece, comes with this little plastic mount that goes between them that has a nipple sticking up and a nipple sticking down, but it does not come with this pipe, my hose, the one that's actually leaking. It does not come with that. So I fashioned one out of some material that I found at AutoZone and thought that would be brilliant, but you can see it is now dripping down here right on top of my water pump, and that's where we had seen stuff pool up before and why we thought it was leaking around the gasket. Because I guess the drip had stopped at that time, or I just somehow didn't notice this massive drip from up here. But yeah, it is nasty. So let's see. Quick question. Audi experience? Are you asking me if I have any experience with Audis? No, I've never driven one, never owned one. I don't know anything about Audis. But I'm trying to aim my phone in the correct location, and let me see if I can zoom in. All right, so that is definitely the culprit or a culprit. Oh my God, I will be so happy if that is the culprit, and that is the only problem. All right, so Jake wanted to get on here live with me, though, just so that he could talk about the step we're at and what to do if you come across a situation like this. So we're going to give him just another minute. He's going to come join us. So the car was a lot of fun to drive. I got a bumper back on it. It's actually starting to grow on me. It's looking a little sexy. I like it. I just had to throw that plate on there. That is my plate for my Cayman. That is my track car. And VIR is my local track. But yeah, a couple of weird things. I got a check engine light again on this drive, the same as the one we got from before. A little gremlin with the cam timing sensor or something. We will talk about that. Can an engine vibrate if the oil deep dipstick plug is damaged? Can an engine vibrate? Mm, Never had that happen. So I don't know the answer to that. If anybody else watching does, shoot something in the comments. If you guys are watching, while you're waiting for Jake, something you can do is give the video a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm, and leave some comments down there. So if you're just joining, again, Jake will be here momentarily. We are diagnosing my coolant leak down here. So the 30 minutes was glorious. It felt really good. Felt strong, sounded really good, other than the one check engine light that popped up right around 3,000 RPM. I was telling Conrad that it felt a little bit like a turbo car almost. It really kicked in, got a little extra juice around there. He said that that was the Vario cam stuff at play, which I'll take his word for it. I don't really know, but the car felt really good. Um, and so my heart broke and sank when I came back out here after lunch and saw the coolant leak, because I thought I'd have to take the whole front console off, and I thought I had to take the engine out of the car in order to do that. And I just don't know if I have the heart for that. It made me so sad. If that is what we have to do, Jake said that you can still lower the engine some while it is in the car to perform that task. It's just so daunting and terrifying if that's what has to happen. So that's why I seem super happy that I'm seeing the leak from up here. Also, if I disconnect this hose where it's leaking after it cools off all the way and there's no pressure in there, I feel like I wouldn't lose all my freaking coolant like when I had to disconnect the water pump down there. So yes. All right. So I did see down here where we labeled it, tank one. I did see some coolant, a couple little drops on that the other day, but I thought it was probably from being splashed up that way instead of dripping down. Um, so yeah, so very happy that I am seeing this because I don't see it coming from anywhere else. All right, hold on, Jake. Okay, I think that means he's about to join us. So, comments, questions from you guys, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I can actually see them now and kind of pay attention to them um, while I'm not talking and gathering info. I hope you guys have been enjoying this build, following along on the journey. If you just randomly found this video somehow, congratulations. You have 40 some videos to catch up on. If you want to see it from the beginning, we built this engine from scratch, from the crank and every single bolt and piece of this engine for the very first time. So it actually ran. We started it a couple days ago. Super excited about that. Um, that part is kind of unbelievable. What's up, Jeremy? Good to see you on here. Thanks for the thumbs up. You typed a thumbs up, but nobody has actually clicked the thumbs up button yet. So now's the time. Button's right down there somewhere. I can't see it on my phone, but hopefully you guys can see it. Yes, but Jake wanted to get on and talk about what happens if you come across a problem at this stage, starting it up, what you need to look for. Hey, somebody found the thumbs up button. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. And here Jake is. So let me go ahead and add him to the call. And welcome, Jake Raby, once more.
What's up, man?
Hey, so I tried to give a little overview of where we are right now. So I caught him up to, we did the first 2 test drives and we found a little coolant leak. So the good news is, let me tell you about it. So originally we thought maybe it was the gasket on the front console, but this hose right here is really dripping a lot. I don't know if you can see that, but that connection right there is really leaking. So that makes me super excited because it's dripping right down there where we saw it coming from what we thought was the water pump and below. So if that is the only thing that's leaking, I am super lucky and excited.
Yeah, so obviously, it's hard. It's easy to make a wrong call when you have a problem like this because you're always assuming worst case scenario, and quite honestly, you should be. But then you have to confirm what it actually is, and the most important thing is you never rule out a compound issue. You
Yep.
never think that you're entitled to only having one problem at a time. This is a huge thing that people overlook, and even professionals do it. So it's important that you go into it saying, "Yeah, I got a leak. Where is it coming from? And is there a possibility it's coming from 2 places?" So that does look like it's probably the majority of it, if not all of it. That hose might have got damaged when you slid it back over the bar fitting. Also, those coolant consoles that we call them, they will warp and they will leak because they warp. They're cast aluminum, and this is the fix for that. So I'll show you what I've got here. It's just kind of odd because I'm just getting ready to make a couple of these prototypes. So um, so literally, this is one version of that part because these are snapping in half across here. They're failing right across there.
Wow.
I've had one fail on my own car, and we've had several of them fail. So we've reinforced this. We took a stock part, we scanned it with a CMM at a laser, and then I added a feature to it where I could put in a coolant temperature sensor here or another spot where you can bleed the coolant from. And then this is another version of it that's even heavier duty that doesn't have that provision right now. But I've thickened this entire area up, and I've got files for both of these, and I'm going to be throwing them in my Haas right there next week. So I got to finish this engine for Mr. Collier first. So I'm on the home stretch, as you can see.
That's great.
Yeah, so that belongs in a 914.6 GT that placed third at the 84 Hours of Nürburgring in 1971. So
Very cool.
That's my current thing. But I just wanted to show you those 2 pieces because I'm literally working on them right now. So what I would do is let it cool down and then pull that hose off and see if the hose has got some visible damage on it. You can probably try to tighten that clamp up a little bit and see if it stops. I doubt it will. I don't know if the clamp's loose or not.
Yeah, so let me tell you the story behind this. So this piece right here is a genuine Porsche piece that quick connects into the AOS, I guess, in the middle of the engine.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes here. It's got this little plastic bracket that it attaches to on the top, with the nipple coming out the top and the bottom. So I bought a new one of the hoses. I bought a new bracket for the middle of it because I couldn't find mine. And the hose on the bottom actually had a permanent kind of clamp on it, and I could not find a part number for that. Nobody can find me a part number. So this hose is actually, I just bought it's a coolant line from some GM car. There was a straight piece of hose, the right diameter, and it was long enough, and I just cut it to the right size. And because of the angles of those things, it just kind of naturally bends itself in the right way. So that's the story behind that part.
So that hose, and the thing is, that hose is basically made onto that part. So when we pull those parts off, if the hose looks good, we leave it the way that it is because I've honestly never seen one of those fail. And we just leave the clamp on it.
Okay.
So, and you'll see on my part, I've changed it where that barb is not made into the part, right? So this is going to be a 1/4 inch NPT threaded precision here, so we can put whatever size fitting we want there for whatever we're going to do. Or in some cases, guys want to block that off, and then you just block it off and you're done. Okay.
Right.
But what I was going to say is the hose you got is likely standard dimension and it's a little too big, and
Uh-huh.
it's not allowing the clamp to crush it all the way. And the problem with a
Yeah.
regular old worm clamp is it's not constant tension, so it doesn't give complete radial support all the way
Right.
around like a constant tension clamp does, if you know what I
Right.
mean. So that could be the problem. It could be the clamp, it could be the hose is a little too big, it could be bad luck, it could be several things. But luckily, it doesn't appear like it's coming from the bottom. So,
Right.
but you did the right thing because things go downhill. Like I see
Yes.
guys a lot of times they think they have an oil leak, but it's really a power steering fluid leak
Mhm.
because it's leaking from the engine. And if it leaks on that right side of the engine anywhere, I'm like, there's really not that much of a place it can come from.
Oh yeah.
Look above, and it'll puddle on top of the engine. And when it
Yep.
puddles there, then you have a problem where it'll drip off. So
Yep.
I've helped a lot of guys that had that problem, not able to find an engine oil leak because they didn't have one. They had a power steering fluid leak. So
Right. So if I were to buy that part from Porsche, it would have that hose attached to it.
yeah, I don't know if it does or not today. I've honestly never bought one, but that part is $700 from
What?
Porsche. Yes, that's the reason why we're making it in billet here in the USA and making it stronger because that's ridiculous for that part.
It better come
Um,
with the hose.
yeah,
Jesus.
I think it does. I think it does come.
All right. Well, that would explain why I couldn't find the part number
I've,
for the
I've,
hose.
I've probably got 200 of them used, but the problem is they're breaking. We're seeing a
Hmm.
lot of them break. I mean, during the FSI rally back in May, when all those guys converged on our location, on the way home, mine cracked on my car, and that's what finally pushed me over the edge to go ahead and freaking make the piece because it needed to be made anyway out of billet. But when it happens to your own car, you decide to go ahead and take the bull by the horns. So.
Right. Well, I'm becoming an expert at taking off air boxes, so I can knock that thing out in no time now.
Yeah, and so one thing I want to go over with everybody on the channel here is that you've got to experience the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. If any of us think about back in the '80s on freaking Wild World of Sports on ABC, that was the when it came on. It was the skier. The thrill
Yeah.
of victory and the agony of defeat, and that's what it is. As you assume the role of engine builder like anybody else that does this. And you get to reel in all of those kudos and all the good feelings at the same time. You get to pay for every mistake, and it keeps you awake at night. And you should think about having about 3,000 of these engines out there. That's the load that we go through. Because anything can happen to any of them at any time for any reason, and it does not have to be explained. It's mechanical. Mechanical things can break with no reason. People might argue about that, but they haven't lived in our shoes. But you've done a great job to this point, and you've worked through some issues. You had to change the water pump. There's a possibility this leak wasn't from the water pump to begin with. There's a possibility that this was coming from above the entire time. You just didn't catch it. Or
Yep.
there's also a possibility that you had a compound issue. The water pump
Yep.
was leaking and that hose was leaking.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, there's no rules saying you can only have one problem at a time.
Sure. Yep. So we're going to try to tighten this thing while we're here. See if it makes any difference.
And something that I've done before that's a bit of a trick, if you got a hose that goes on is a little bit loose. Now, this is not the proper thing to do, but there are cases where you have to improvise, adapt, and overcome, right?
Uh-huh.
So there's something that I've done before. If I have a hose that fits a little bit too loose, I'll take a smear of this Loctite 518, okay?
Uh-huh.
And I will put that on the barb and a little bit inside the hose. It's anaerobic, so it's not going to go anywhere and cause a problem. You have to shut the air off to it to make it work. But I
Mm-hmm.
put a smear of this on a barb fitting and tightened it up, and it will take an act of Congress to get it back off again. I mean, this stuff is badass. It really is. So I have bailed myself out with that many times. I've got a whole cabinet full of tricks when it comes to that sort of stuff. But I've even done that on a hydraulic line. I did that on an oil line on an air-cooled car about 15 years ago when it blew an AN fitting off on the side of I-75. And I
Oof.
honestly never fixed it. I patched it up on the side of the road with that, and it's been that way for 15 years. I never fixed the fitting.
Wow.
I probably should, but I never did.
Yep. So I guess, is there a good place to get better clamps?
I mean, you just a constant tension clamp is really what you want. Those are the ones that kill your fingers to install. You got to have those special tools for them.
Yep.
Um, those are the way to go. They're a spring clamp,
Yep.
and and the other thing is, I'll show you
We're
another
talking
thing
about
that you
just
can
any
do.
of these normal ones here from
Well,
Porsche.
that's a constant tension clamp. Now, there's a couple of
Yep.
styles of those. Okay, so those you just compress them and they're reusable. But I'm going to show you the other style, and you can buy a kit for this. Okay, um, let me get a few things out here because there's a couple of different options for stuff. Okay, all right, turn you around. All right, so these are a couple of different styles that will work different ways. So this one is like what was on there from the factory. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is not reusable. This is a permanent deal. So you
Right.
slide that around the line, and then once you slide it on, you take a pair of diagonal cutters, or they actually make a special tool for it that looks like an end nipper, and you just squeeze that together, and it provides constant tension all the way around. Right.
Right. Yep.
So you only use these on things you do not want to take off because that's stainless steel and they're a pain to get off. Okay,
Yeah.
so you can buy a kit like this on Amazon or something, right? And then it's called single ear, is what that's called. And then this style here, which I hadn't even opened this up yet, these clamps are better because they are semi-constant tension, right? So you can look at how they're made. You see, they're not a
Right.
worm style, right?
Right. Yep.
So these are better, and this is what older German cars came with. Talking all the way back in the '60s, had clamps like these. So those to me are better for something that you may have to service later. But that hose never needs to come off, so you could use one of these,
Yeah.
and be fine.
Okay. As long as I get it on right the first time.
Yes.
All right. So since my hose is a little bit bigger, I'll probably go your Loctite route with a better clamp, and between the two of them, hopefully it's gonna stop that leak.
Yeah. Okay. Here, I'll show you something that's pretty cool while we're on here.
Yeah.
You guys get to see this first. Check that out. 100% billet intake for our CNC ported heads.
Holy cow. That's not for my engine you have over there, right?
No, it would fit, but no. Those
You got
are
any of my
sitting
parts
here.
over there?
Those are on the flow bench right now. I'm getting ready to flow them. I've got the comparative parts up here that I'm dealing with right now. So yeah.
Any of my engine pieces over there?
Yeah, I'll show you. I'm actually doing a mock-up on it and checking your roughness average on the cylinders right now. So um, this is one of your pistons. We did a
Ooh.
mock-up earlier just to get the deck height. So the deck height looks good. You're going to be bumping about 13.5 to 1 compression. And yeah, that's totally safe for what we're doing. Um, so yeah, that's your block. Checking out the surface finishes here to make sure the quality control is good on that. Should be. It's already been checked at the platers, but I'm going to check it myself like we always do. And I'll be balancing everything on Friday. Here's the crankshaft mocked up. So checking bearing clearances there with your coated bearings here. So it's underway. I've just got to finish Mr. Collier's engine before I can.
Yeah. Nice. People keep asking me, and I've never asked you just because, I don't know, hasn't been that big of a concern to me. But what is do you have an expected horsepower of that thing when it's done? Any idea?
I mean, well, there's a lot of things that play into it.
Right.
Exhaust plays a huge role. What you do with the intake plays a huge role. As it is right now, if we get it optimized in the manner in which I would like for it to be, it'll make about 420 at the
Ooh.
flywheel. It'll net about 330, 340 in that neighborhood, usually in a car. That's about what we end up making with that combination. And there are options where we can bump it up a little higher than that. But obviously, we have to figure out where you want the power. When I start doing cam timing, I don't just sit here and use the standard tools for that. I can move the cams around with a set of procedures that I have to advance or retard the camshafts and then change the allocation between the two for load separation. Um, so I can move the power band up and down. And people that want horsepower think they want horsepower. If they go in my group with 200 or so guys that you're a part of, that's a private area where guys can talk to each other about it, and
Mhm.
they are able to compare the same engine that I've built two different ways, torque versus RPM. They don't have the same experiences.
Mhm.
Size doesn't matter at all. Size doesn't matter. It truly doesn't.
Uh-huh.
People say, well, a 4.1 engine should do so and so, but where is it making peak power? Is it something where we don't care about high RPM? We want under the curve. We want throttle response. We want a flat torque curve. Or do you want RPM to go out there and make people think you got a GT3? And I can do
Right.
that. AC
Yeah.
Wheeler was doing that all weekend. He needs a new tachometer, right? Because the tach is a joke now. I mean, 9,000 RPM engine. So, we can move it around, but 330 at the wheels is what I would expect with things not being perfect with exhaust and intake and that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Because
Interesting.
you've already got some intake stuff done, right? You've already got.
Yep. Ooh, I just lost your audio there. Jake, we lost you. All right. I don't know if Jake is coming back, but I think that was about the end anyway. So in a future video, I will be fixing this hose here, and I'll let you guys know if that works and fixed it. If you haven't been following along, I have a. Oh, Jake is coming back.
Yeah.
Welcome back. We lost you there for a second.
Yeah, some freaking telemarketer tried to call me and it kicked me off.
Comments if they had rerouted. Oops, I think my video froze now. At least on my phone, my video is frozen.
Yeah, mine is too.
Nope. Somebody asked if they had rerouted my hose that's leaking because they said that on theirs, the hose went left near the top of the alternator,
Yeah,
which,
I mean, there's various deviations in that hose. There's even one that's different for Boxster, right? Because the
hmm,
the outlet goes the other way, and some of those pieces aren't even there with a Boxster.
gotcha.
So yeah, it may. I mean, we're talking about a family of engines that spans 11 years,
Yeah.
and 13 submodels of vehicles. So yeah, you're going to have
Yeah.
deviations. At the end of the day, it's the same net effect. You can have a problem
Yep. Okay, awesome. Well, I think we came to the end, and since our video died, I think it's a good place to stop. So, thank you very much for sharing some more knowledge with us. I will try to get this patched up, and I'll let you know how it goes, Jake.
Yep, sounds good. I mean, you got to persevere. I mean, people, when you hit a problem, your effectiveness is basically defined by how you handle problems. It's not how you handle success. And trust me, no one ever learned anything from success. You only learn from mistakes. So people go into this thinking it's going to be easy, and it's going to be hell, and they need to understand that.
Yep. Yeah, hopefully not too much hell, but definitely some hell along the way. So,
Well,
thanks again, Jake.
again, calm seas never made a good sailor. So
Yep.
the only way you learn this stuff is exactly the way you're learning it.
Yep. You got to do it. Got to do it. Can't just watch it.
That's it. All right, man.
All right.
Good
Thanks,
luck.
guys.
All
Have a
right,
good
see
one.
you.
All right. Bye.